Alright, זהו, התחלנו. ברוכים הבאים. We are on the 13th category of mitzvot, right? המצוות שהקבוצה ה-13 כוללת, הן אלה שמנינו בהלכות מאכלות אסורות ובהלכות שחיטה. This is in ספר קדושה, right? So the 13th category includes the mitzvot that have to do with kashrut, has to do with shechitah, ובהלכות נדרים ונזירות. And it has to do with, what is neder? Who knows what's a neder? Vow, right? Also shavuot, vows and oaths. And nazirut is someone who becomes a nazir, who abstains from wine and all products that come out of the vine. All right, and that's in Sefer Hafla'ah. Here, you have pages here, and we may use the Chumash. If you want to be able to follow in English, take the Chumash with the English. All right, and the mitzvot that we're going to focus more on today is Nidarim, the vows. I don't know,
what's the
the Parasha Matot.
Matot? Okay.
Yeah.
Page number 906.
וכבר ביארנו בחיבור זה ובפירוש להראות את תועלתה של קבוצה זו באופן מעמיק ויסודי מאוד. All right, earlier in this book on the Guide for the Perplexed, we already discussed the rationale of these mitzvot in general in great detail, and also in the introduction to Avot we discussed, we'll bring it later. ואנו נוסיף על כך ביאור תוך התחקות אחר המצוות הפרטיות המנויות שם, and we're going to look into more details, we're going to a little bit more into detail of these mitzvot. ואומר שכל המאכלים שאסרה עלינו התורה, all of the foods that the Torah forbade us from eating, תזונתם של כולם מגונה, or in the different translation that I have, giru'ah. They all are bad, they have bad nutritional value. ואין במה שנאסר עלינו מה שאפשר לחשוב בטעות שאין בו נזק, פרט לחזיר ולחלב. And it's not just bacon and pig and xelev. Xelev are the more pure fats in the animal, right? Those aren't the only ones that are bad for us. All of the forbidden foods are actually very bad for us. Kia hazir, it says, but especially pigs. Ki ulach yoter min haraui verabba bo hapesolet. Right, the pigs, they are exceedingly disgusting. They are exceedingly fatty, and all they eat is garbage. They eat tremendous amounts of garbage. They eat anything. והתורה תיעבה אותו בעיקר משום גודל טינופו. And the Torah extremely hates the pig more than others. By the way, as far as kashrut goes, right? Eating pig or eating horse or eating anything that's not kasher is just as bad. However, we see this extra kind of abstention from the Torah. The Torah despises the pig more than anything else, right? It says mishum godel tinufo, because it's exceedingly disgusting. It lives in garbage. It lives in mud. Vehiyoto nizon matinofet, and it eats garbage. ידוע כי התורה הקפידה שלא יראו זיהומים אפילו בשדה, במחנה וכל שכן בתוך הערים. Right, we see the Torah wants us to keep our military camps clean, right? Wants us to keep our fields clean. Says, and even more so to keep our cities clean. ואילו היו ניזונים מחזיר היו נעשים השווקים ואף הבתים מטונפים יותר מבית הכיסא. right? And if we were able to raise pigs in our cities, then the cities and our marketplaces would be exceedingly disgusting and smelly, even more than Beit HaKiseh. What is Beit HaKiseh? Even more than the bathrooms, the public bathrooms. כמו שאתה רואה בארצות הפרנקים היום, as you see in the lands of the French, the Franks today, ידועים לך דבריהם זר, as you know, the חכמים say, פי החזיר כצואה עוברת דמה. Right? And this is a halacha. It says the mouth of pork, the mouth of a pig, is considered to be walking garbage. What is this? Tzoah actually isn't garbage. It's excrements, right? On the left side. On the left side. Right? Pi hazir kiswa overet dame. We have halacha, you're not allowed to say Kiryat Shema in front of a pile of excrement, right? Someone's droppings. If it smells, you can't say Shema, you can't do tefillah. It says if a pig walks by, it's the same thing. It says the mouth of the pig is considered chazir kitzoa overet dame. It's like walking garbage. אשר לטעמו של גיד הנשה הוא מפורש בפסוקים, right? What else we're not allowed to eat is also the גיד הנשה. It's a certain part of the leg of the animal that has a special reason. It has to do with Yaakov when he crossed the river and he got into a fight with an angel. Says that's already explicit in the psukim. We don't need to get into that here. Asher leta'amo shel eved min ha'chai. We have another isur to, if you want to eat a piece of meat, you can't just cut the piece of meat from the animal while it's alive, right? You have to first kill the animal and then cut the steak that you'd like to eat. Why can't you do that? By the way, this isn't a mitzvah just for Jews. This is a mitzvah for everybody. All of humanity is bound by this mitzvah. Eved min ha'chai, the goyim as well. All the goyim, all human beings are forbidden from eating from an animal while it's alive. They must first kill the animal, and then they can take whatever cut of meat that they like from it. Why? Because this makne achzariyut. It makes a person cruel. וכך היו עושים גם מלכי הגויים. And this is a practice of the kings of all the nations. They used to even do it to people. They cut limbs off of people as a way of cruelty, but also for animals. וכן היו עושים גם לעבודה זרה, and so too they did this for pagan worships. כוונתי שהיו חותכים מן הבהמה איבר מיוחד ואוכלים אותו. They would take out an organ of the animal or cut off a limb of an animal and eat it raw as is while the animal is still alive. This was also a form of avodah zarah. Asher le'isur besar b'halav. However, regarding mixing milk and meat together, dairy and meat together, מעבר לכך שהוא בלי ספק מזון גס מאוד וגורם למלאות רבה, right? Besides it being very fatty and satisfying, like overly satisfying, אין זה רחוק לדעתי שיש בכך קשר לעבודה זרה. He says, in my opinion, it's also somehow associated with pagan ritual. ייתכן שכך היו אוכלים. He says it may be that this is how they used to eat in one of their pagan ceremonies. באחת מעבודותיה או באחת מחגיהם. Or maybe it was even in one of their holidays. They marked the holiday by mixing milk and meat together. מה שמחזק זאת לדעתי, and in my opinion, what strengthens this in my mind, he says, הוא שבראשית הציווי על איסור בשר בחלב, הוא נזכר פעמיים דווקא עם הזכרת חובת העלייה לרגל. He says because it's brought in association twice. It's brought in association with our holidays coming up to visit God on the temple 3 times a year, and you shall not eat meat, right? Lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo. You shouldn't cook. You shouldn't cook a gedi. No, what's it called? Forgot my English. You shouldn't cook a goat with its kid's milk, right? Or a kid with its mother's milk, right? It brought it twice in association with the Hagim. He says it's kind of bizarre. It's as if he says when you come to do Aliyah Regel on your holidays, don't mix meat and milk together. The way you would do it as the pagans do it. זה טעם חזק ביותר לדעתי לאיסורו, אך לא ראיתי זאת כתוב בספרי הצבעים שעיינתי בהם. It says, this seems very reasonable to me in my mind. However, I never found any proof of it, any written documentation of any form of pagan worship that actually does it this way. By the way, there's more to it than that. If you analyze the laws of basar bihalav, by the way, if you slaughter an animal and it comes out taref, then what do you do with the animal? You can sell it to the goy. You could feed it to your animals, to the dogs. It says lakelev tashlichun oto, right? If you find a dead animal, you can benefit from it. You just can't eat it, right? Basar b'halav, you're not allowed to derive any benefit from it, which is very similar to the laws of Avodah Zarah. So like, what's the difference here? The Rambam suggesting it may have something to do with Avodah Zarah, even though he never found any support for that. It's a theory that he has. Later on, it's been found. We found documentation of pagan forms of worship that actually mix meat and milk together. So his theory, it's kind of like his hypothesis was eventually proven right, which is interesting. He got this just from analyzing the psukim, and the laws seem to suggest it has something to do with Avodah Zarah. However, regarding the slaughtering of animals, this is very necessary. Right? Because the foods of man, they either come from the seeds and from vegetables and from the flesh of animals. והבשר המובחר ביותר הוא שהותר לנו לאוכלו, and the best of the meats of the animals, the animal flesh, is what was allowed for us to eat. וזה דבר שאין רופא שאינו יודע, and all medics, all physicians can tell you that the best meats, I guess, are either a lamb, goat, and beef. ומכיוון שההכרח במזון טוב מצריך להורגו, and since we can't just cut pieces of meat off of an animal to eat it, we need to first kill it. So we got the tzivui of doing shechitah, a relatively painless and quick way of killing the animal that does it as painless and easy as possible. Right? And so when we do shechitah, we need to make sure that the knives are properly sharpened and smooth. They're completely smooth in order for the shechitah to be as efficient and quick as possible. If you make a mistake during the shechitah, then you can't eat the animal. You'll have to sell it, or you lose a lot of money. So make sure when you do shechitah that you do it properly. I'll never forget the first time that I slaughtered. My first slaughter was a lamb.
Without suffering.
Uh,
Without suffering.
yeah, without suffering. It's clean. By the way, the knives are so sharp. I cut myself a million times. I never felt it. Right? I'd only find out afterwards. Oh, I got blood. I think it's the animal's blood. I wash my hands and I see I have like a nice cut in my finger that I never even felt because it's so sharp and smooth, the knife. Anyways, I remember I've never even seen a shechitah before. I thought maybe I was going to start with a chicken. No, my shochet, my teacher, gives me a lamb. A minute before the shechitah, he says, by the way, if you mess it up, it's 1,000 shekels. I'm like, great, no pressure, right?
Is any place here to see it?
Any place?
Like see how the shechitah.
Well, I wouldn't do it here, but if you guys want, we can. It can be arranged.
Yeah.
Better, instead of seeing, we'll order chickens and we'll teach you to do it, and you do it yourself. Anyways, no pressure, 1,000 shekels. That's the thing. If you mess it up, it's very expensive. So you're gonna make sure that when you do shechitah, that you do it properly, right? That the knife is properly sharpened and smooth. We can show you. Yeah, we can. It could be arranged. No problem. We'll do it on Hacham Mordechai's farm. We can do it.
Wow.
It came out fine. Halak, perfect.
Yeah.
Very very tasty.
Really?
Actually, I didn't eat that one, but I'm assuming it came out very tasty.
The shekel each.
If you want to do a lamb, you could. By the way, Hacham Mordechai, he does shechitah all the time, like every week. He slaughters and he sells meat. He goes up north, but he sells it around on his farm. And so too it is forbidden to slaughter an animal and its son on the same day. All this is to teach us compassion, right? We do shechitah, we do it with compassion. We don't do ever minahai, right? Because that's cruel. Then we do also has zil gamatam mishilo haken, is to teach us compassion. All these mitzvot are meant to, on the one hand, curb our desires by you can't eat everything, but only the best foods that are for us. Don't go around eating everything. When you do eat, when you have to slaughter, you do it with compassion, right? בנוסף לאיסור המאכלות האסורים, in addition to what was forbidden for us to eat, הצטווינו גם על נדרי איסר. We were also commanded on oaths that we take upon ourselves to forbid things on ourselves. Yeah?
Well, I forgot the name. ¿Cómo se llama el hígado? Liver. Huh?
Liver.
Liver. Toda.
Litter?
Liver.
Kaved, yeah. What about it? We can eat it? Yeah, for sure. It's the best part.
Well, they just say can eat with food. They say they get it go there.
Okay. If you put it on the fire, it's fine. If you roast it, if you grill it, it's fine. Yeah. What?
Liver is full of fat.
Yeah, it's fine. You cut it so the blood could come out, and if you put it on the fire, all the blood comes out. It's fine. Liver, I love liver.
Raf, I have a question.
Yes.
Perhaps this is a little bit off the subject, but what about this mitzvah that about the birds, the doves that we need to take
Shiluach
when we
haken.
find?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I skipped it a bit, but yeah, shiluach haken too, right? You want to have the eggs of a bird first. You send the mother away. Usually after birds see that you interfered with their nest, they abandon their nest, right? Then you can take their eggs, right? That happens if you ever see birds' nests. They say don't touch the eggs, don't interfere. Why? Because the mother's going to abandon the nest afterwards. So if you want to take the eggs, right? If you want to eat the eggs of obviously a kosher bird, right? Then you have to first send the mother away.
But tell him with compassion is even more.
Right, that's part of the compassion, because otherwise she gets heartbroken, right?
So the meat and the meat in the milk, mixing the meat and milk, that's avodah zarah, the reason.
It's a supposed reason. It's his hypothesis, which seemed to be correct.
But there's nothing to do with
Question, Rav. Can you hear me?
No, that has to do with with gluttony, right? Not just eating anything for the sake of eating, right? There's boundaries on what you eat, and yeah, sorry. Someone had a question? Okay.
Yeah.
Bechavod.
About the nest and the mother. Like, how does it work? For example, let's imagine there's this Jewish promoter that wants to build a big project, and needs to like erase a big part of a little forest there, whatever. Like, is there a law?
I don't think it's really related to that. This is Shiloh Haken is really talking when you want to take the eggs. Like you see a bird, you see doves, right? You like dove eggs. I've never eaten dove eggs. I'm assuming they taste good, right? So you have to first shoo the doves away, and only then, after they leave, you can take the eggs.
So that's only for taking eggs? So if you want to like cut the tree down, it doesn't matter?
I don't think you need to check every tree to see if there's a nest there or something before you cut it down. I've never heard of.
Okay, that was my doubt.
Requirement.
So it's very specific about eating eggs.
Right.
It doesn't have much to do with compassion, basically.
It has to do with compassion, that you don't take. Oh, shalom aleichem. You don't take the eggs in front of her, because that causes a lot of.
But it doesn't matter if you chop the tree down and break everything. Doesn't apply.
Yeah, if you have to cut down forest, you cut down the forest. Yeah. All right, but I want to focus more on the oaths, nidarim. All right, so בנוסף לאיסור המאכלות האסורים שנסתווינו בו, in addition to what the forbidden foods, הצטווינו גם על נדרי איסר. We were also commanded on oaths that you take upon yourself something, or you forbid something on yourself. שיאמר אדם לחם זה או בשר זה אסור עליי. A person says, this bread or this meat is forbidden to me, right? It's mutar for everyone, it's kasher, but you're saying this, I don't know, these chocolates, I am not eating, right? It is asur for me to eat them. That is asur. It now becomes isur deoraita, to eat them, right? If you say that. נאסר עליו לאוכלו, כל זה כאימון להקניית ההסתפקות במועט ועצירת תאוות האכילה והשתייה. All this is in order to teach yourself to abstain from certain things that you're allowed to eat or drink, but you want to abstain from them, right? So you make a neder not to eat or drink them. Also, same thing with nezirut, with wine, right? Now it becomes asur for you to eat that. It's as if it's not kasher. Amru siyag leperishut nidarim, right? What is siyag leperishut? Like a gateway to perishut, being ascetic or abstaining, is nidarim, oaths.
So, Rab.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So this is just to practice will?
Right. You want to go on a diet, right? You can't eat carbs, so you say you want it to be as if it's not kasher. I have no problem not eating things that aren't kasher, right? I have a problem sometimes eating things that are very tasty and are kosher. I want to now go on a special diet, and I say, I'm never eating carbs anymore. Right? This isn't, I'm just an example. I'm still eating carbs. I'm never eating chocolates anymore. I'm never eating sugar anymore. Right? That becomes a neder. If you say that, that's a neder. And if you eat, you are hayav in Beit Din. They're going to whip you in Beit Din. That's a neder. מכיוון שנשים ממהרות לכעוס בשל קלות התפעלותן וחולשת נפשן, right? And because women are sometimes very eager to vow things, right? אילו היה עניין שבועותיהן תלוי בהן, היה דבר גורם לסבל גדול בבית ופירוד וקלקול הסדר. Right? If it was completely in their hands every time they said, oh, I'm never, you hear this all, my mother all the time and my sisters, after Chag, they say, that's it, I'm fasting now for a week. Right? If it was really up to them, and then it could cause a lot of problems in the household, right? She says, I'm never eating, I don't know, vegetables or fruits from this place. Now the head of the household needs to say, okay, she's not eating this anymore. She's not eating this anymore. He's not eating that anymore. It's like it's confusing. How am I going to manage a household? So the Torah put it in the hands of the head of the household. If a woman vows something that the father or the husband, depends on what house, if it's the daughter or the wife, right, that he doesn't approve of, he can annul that vow. Shemin ma'achal mesuyam mutar labal ve'asur la'isha, right? Some foods are the husband can have, but the wife can't. Umin acher asur labat, and some other food is forbidden on the daughter, but not to the husband, not to the father, right? It just causes a balagan in the house. Lachen imsar hadavar lerosh hamishpacha b'chol ma shekashur bo. So it's to the discretion of the head of the household. Halo tireh shemishi birshut atzma. ואין היא הולכת אחר ראש המשפחה מנהיג אותה, and you'll see that likewise a woman who is independent, whether she's divorced or she is grown up and left her father's household, or her husband passed away and she's living on her own, then nobody can annul her vow for her. If she vows something, it's kayam. She has to keep it. כלומר, מי שאין לה בעל, או מי שאין לה אב, או מי שהגיע לבגרות, כלומר בוגרת, דינה כדין הגברים בנדרים. Right, in that case, if she is divorced, or if she is independent, she's on her own, then she has the same laws as men regarding making vows. הטעם לנזירות ברור מאוד, and also נזירות, what is a Nazir? Who remembers what a Nazir is? Right, someone who abstains from wine, right? And we see this, I'm just going to say very quickly, we see this, you don't see this so much in Israel, this issue with alcoholism. But I don't know, I guess in America it's a very big thing because in all the movies, right, everyone's going to AA meetings and they have sponsors and if God forbid you should give a recovering alcoholic a drop of alcohol because then he'll fall off the wagon again. I've never experienced this in my life. Apparently, maybe this used to be an issue with the Jewish people too. And then they had this thing called Nezirut, where they completely swear off wine and alcohol. It could be just for 30 days. By the way, Nazirut, Stam, someone says he wants to be a Nazir, Stam, it's for 30 days. But he could also specify it's going to be for a year or for any period of time that he wants. He could also say it's just going to be for a week. But if a person doesn't specify, Stam Nazirut, right, is 30 days. The problem is that in order to end your Nazirut, you have to bring a korban. So until you can bring a korban, you can't end your Nazirut. So today, if someone decides to be a Nazir, he needs to follow it through until he manages to sneak a korban up to Harabait and slaughter. Otherwise, he's got to continue his Nazirut.
Can you drink mitzvah?
No, nothing that comes out of grape. Can't even eat grapes or even raisins. All right, so let's see what are the mitzvot that are part of this 14th category. You have Hilchot Ma'achalot Asurot. We have 28 mitzvot there. Hilchot Shechitah, another 5 mitzvot. Then Sefer Afla'ah, we have Hilchot Shevuot, 5 more mitzvot. Hilchot Nedarim, another 3 mitzvot. Nezirut, another 10 mitzvot. Arachin v'Haramin, another 10 mitzvot. Total of 25 mitzvot. So 25 mitzvot in Sefer Afla'ah, plus 5 mitzvot in Hilchot Shechitah, that's 30, plus 28, that's 58 mitzvot that are part of this 13th category of mitzvot. Now I want us to look a little bit into Hilchot Nedarim, into the Perashah a little bit. Let's open up the Perashah. This is Vaydaber Moshe el Rashe Hamatot Nivnei Yisrael Emor. Moshe speaks to Rashe Hamatot. Who are Rashe Hamatot? Who has it in English open? Who are Rashe Hamatot? Huh?
Chiefs of the tribes.
The chiefs of the tribes. Exactly, the chiefs of the tribes. Moshe is speaking to the chiefs of the tribe. Divnei Yisrael Emor. This is what God commanded. Ish ki dor neder ladonai, a person who shall make a vow to God, or yishava shivua, or he swears in God's name, le'esor isar al nafsho, right, to forbid something on himself, like not eating chocolate, not eating whatever. Lo yachel devaro, he cannot go against his word. Kechol hayoseh mipiv ya'aseh. All that he says, he shall do. Exactly. Now, first of all, it's a very interesting opening, right? It's always Vaydaber Hashem and Moshe Lemor. God spoke to Moshe, right? God, if it's regarding the Kihuna, it says God spoke to Moshe and Aharon. Whenever do we see that God opens up giving mitzvot, Rashe Hamatot, to the chiefs of the tribes? Why? Any ideas?
Because then can notify.
Because the chiefs have to enforce that promise.
I'll tell you something that my rabbi said, and I think he's absolutely right, and I take it one step further. Who are the chiefs of the tribes? They're the politicians. He says these are the people that are most likely to lie. They lie to you before the elections. They lie to you during the elections. They break all their promises after the elections. He says these laws were handed out specifically to the chiefs of the tribes because it concerns the leadership more than it concerns anybody else. Kechol hayoseh mipiv ya'aseh. All that they say, they are bound to do it. They have to follow through with their promises. And we'll see. I'm not going to go here into the rest of the Pesukim here. It's, the rest of the Pesukim is really, it's more for the men than the women, because the women, you see, right, if a woman vows, her husband can undo it unless she is independent, right? Now look at Sefer HaMitzvot, right? Mitzvat Aseh Sadid Dalid. All right? There's a mitzvah, ושציוונו לקיים כל מה שקיבלנו על נפשנו בדיבור. That we, the mitzvat aseh deoraita, to follow through with anything that we said that we're going to do or not do. משבועה ונדר וצדקה והקורבן וזולת זה. Whether you make it as an oath, whether you just say it. What's the difference between a neder and a shevuah? A neder is you just said that you're going to do something without swearing in the name of God that you're going to do it. Or tzedakah, you promise to give some sort of charity, or a korban, or to dedicate something to a korban. So the mitzvat aseh deoraita, to follow through with anything you said that you're going to do. V'hu omro yit'aleh, and this is what it says, Musa sifatecha tishmor ve'asita, right? What you pronounced in your mouth, beware to do it. V'af al pi shehalku milot ze pasuk, all right? And this is what it says in our parasha, v'hu omro, at the end of that paragraph, kechol hayoseh mipiv ya'aseh, as he spoke it, so he must do it. And we're going to skip now to the mitzvat lo ta'aseh on the next page. Shehizhiranu me'avod ma shechiyavnu al atzmenu b'dibur af al pi shuhu belo shevuah. It says there's a mitzvat aseh to follow through with what you said, and there's a mitzvat lo ta'aseh to transgress what you said. If you said that you were not going to eat something and you ate it, you transgress a mitzvat aseh and a mitzvat lo ta'aseh. וזהו הנדרים, כמו שיאמר אדם, כשיהיה כך וכשאעשה כך, right? If this happens, then I'll do this. Or if this doesn't happen, then, it's like you say, I promise that if I win the lottery, I'm going to, I don't know, donate 50% of my, how do you call it? And then what happens, you win the lottery, tax takes 50%, you're left with 50% that you have to donate away now because you promised. That's a mitzvat aseh, you have to follow through. It says, lo yachel devaro. What does that mean? Uba azhara be'over al hadavar hazeh befirush omro, lo yachel devaro. It says, lo yachel devaro. What does that mean? Lo ya'aseh devarav hulin. Right? Your words that you speak, your speech should not be hulin, meaning you can't desecrate your own word. What you say is kodesh. If you promise to do something, that's kodesh. You have to follow through and do it. However, we do have another mitzvat aseh. We're going back one. Ushesivanu ladun behafarat nidarim. We have a mitzvah to judge. We're going back to the end of the second page. Mitzvat aseh sadi hey, right? To annul vows, people's vows. What does that mean? כלומר שהתורה שהורנו לדון בדינים ההם ואין עניין שנתחייב להפר על כל פנים, meaning if you hear that someone makes a vow, you don't have a mitzvah to go and annul his vow. But if a person later regrets making a certain vow, then there is a possibility to annul his vow. Right? It says, Lo yachel devaro. Let's see, where's the Shavua? V'aremez al ze be'omro lo yachel devaro. Right? Where it says in the pasuk, Lo yachel devaro, the person who says that he's going to do something can transgress his speech. says, Hu eno muhel, aval acherin muhalin lo. It says, we have the tradition says, Lo yachel devaro, the person who vows something cannot annul his vow, but others can annul it for him. And this is what we call hatarat nedarim. You made a neder, right? You complied with it for some time, and now you regret that neder. You can go, you do a she'elat hacham, you go to your rabbi or hacham, or if you don't have, then you go to 3 hedyotot, and you tell them, this is the neder that I made. I need you to exempt me from this neder. You cannot exempt yourself from your neder. You need to go to a hacham to exempt you from a neder, because the Torah is trying to educate you to take your word seriously. They say your word is your bond, right? How does this work? Let's see. We're gonna jump to the end of page 3 in Hilchot Nedarim. Echad hanoder mipi asmo, someone who makes a neder on his own. Or shehediro havero, or someone made you vow something and you said, or someone else vowed something and you said amen. Amen means I agree, meaning I'm taking it upon myself as well. או דבר שעניינו קניין אמן, alright, שהוא קבלת דברים. אין הנודר נאסר בדבר שאסר על עצמו, עד שיוציא בשפתיו ויהיה פיו וליבו שווים. Right? When does the neder apply? The neder applies when there is cohesion between what you say and what you meant. Meaning, if a person says, I vow never to eat chocolates, and he didn't really include in that white chocolate, right? That's it. The net, there was discrepancy between what he said and what he meant. Or he says, I vow never to eat meat, but really intended to say, I vow never to eat I don't know, to eat vegetables. So he just said the wrong word. If there's no, if his mind, right, his intention doesn't match what he said, then the vow is annulled. All right. So I actually had a friend, like probably in the past month, he called me up. Let's see another halacha before that. We're going to Hilchot Shavuot. He says, Kesad metirin, how do you annul, how do you permit someone to, or annul his vow, even his shivua? Kesad metirin, yavo hanishba lechacham muvhak. Right, the person who made the vow comes to a hacham. Or lishlosha hediotot im en sham mumche. And if there isn't someone who is specializes in nidarim, then he goes to 3 regular people. ואומר, אני נשבעתי על כך וכך. And he says to him, this is the vow that I made. וניחמתי, and I regret it. ואילו הייתי יודע, and if I would have known, שאני מצטער בדבר זה עד כה, that this, if I would have known that this vow would have caused me this much stress, right? או שיראה לי כך וכך, would have caused this to happen, לא הייתי נשבע, I never would have made this vow. ואילו הייתה דעתי בעת השבועה כמו עתה, לא הייתי נשבע. And if I would have known then what I know now about this vow, I wouldn't have made the vow. החכם וגדול השלושה אומר לו, וכבר ניחמת, then the person, the hacham or the 3 people that he comes to, then they ask him, did you already regret the vow? Like, are you feeling the implications of the vow and it's causing you stress and you regret it? And he says yes. חוזר ואומר, שרוי לך, או מותר לך, או מחול לך, וכן כל כיוצא בזה בכל לשון. Then the Hacham says to him, all right, it is now permitted for you, שרוי לך, או מחול לך, if you've been to Hatarat Nedarim at the beginning of Yom Kippur, right? That's what they do. Sharui lecha, mahun lecha. There's sometimes they say it 3 times. Why? Because there's 3 people. You don't really need to say it 3 times. The idea is that how do you permit someone's neder? It's you need to uncover what the discrepancy was between what he said and what he thought he was saying. So a friend of mine came to me like about a month ago, called me up. He said, I made this neder, blah, 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 and I need to permit it. I can't go on like this anymore. So I started to investigate. Well, what did you say? What's causing all the thing? Says, did you realize that this is what it's going to make you feel like down the line? And we got to the bottom of what he intended when he made the neder and what's actually happening, and it's not what he thought. That's the basis for doing a hatarat nidarim for someone. But the important part of doing a hatarat nidarim is that the person needs to realize that his word is serious. If he says something, he needs to suffer the consequence before he can just undo it. You can't just go around making promises and never following through. You can't forbid things on yourself and then undo it before you felt the consequences of what you said. And you can't undo your neder yourself. You need to go to someone. There needs to be kind of like this element of not just regret, but of busha, right? Embarrassment, like a fadiqa. You go to the chacham, right? You have to go to your rabbi. You said, I made this promise to myself, and I'm not managing to, how do you call it? It's really causing me a lot of trouble, and like, please help me out. Only that's how seriously the Torah wants you to take your word.
Is weird rap because in Mexico you say one word and you have to complain. You can say no because this is different. But say if you
but this is it.
Say some word, you have to do it.
That's it. You make a neder
because the man
you have to follow through with it, right? And if it's causing you a lot of problems, then you have to go to someone, a chacham, or a rabbi, or 3 other people, and confess your neder to them, so that they can say, okay, fine, it's permitted. You can your neder is annulled, and you could carry on with your life.
But then is
Rob Sami, I have a question.
Yes, b'chavod.
Between husband and wife, how it works. I think I heard a husband can't cancel or something.
Yes, but it has to be on the same day that he hears about it. Meaning, as soon as he hears about the neder that the wife made, he needs to say, no, sorry, this is lo matimni, and it's cancelled. If he hears about it, then he says, oh, okay, whatever. And a day passes, that's it. It's a neder. So you had a question?
yeah. So the neder doesn't matter whether it's done privately or in the public or no one hears it. It doesn't matter. You
Right,
speak to yourself.
right.
Let's say the formula, right?
Obviously, you can't get whipped if there's no edim to it, right? But yeah, you say a neder, you have to follow through with it.
If somebody came in and they were late, and they said, "Oh, Rabbi, I'm so sorry I'm late. Bli neder, I'll never be late."
That's why people say bli neder.
Is bli neder kind of the get out of jail free card?
It's kind of saying that I'm saying this as this is my intention, but like don't hold me to it.
being there is before.
Not don't hold me to it because I'm not saying it seriously. Don't hold me to it because I don't want to accept it as a mitzvah d'oraita.
As a teacher, someone has an appointment, say next Tuesday,
Yeah.
and you say, "See you next Tuesday."
No, that's not a neder.
That's
That's not a neder.
So
A neder is accepting like an obligation upon yourself.
it's a specific formula, right?
I mean,
You say certain word is a neder.
There's no like formulation. You have to say something that it means that you're accepting an obligation upon yourself.
It's like
Because it could be in any language. There's no specific formulation for it. Now I want to jump to the end of the Pirashah. All right, it says
between the Shavuot and the nether.
Shivwa is a swear with the name, like in the name of God.
And nether, but in a matter of hierarchy, in regards.
I'd say Shivwa is worse because it's in God's name, but there's different types of Shivwa. Shivwa could also be you swearing to something that you saw or something that happened, not something that you're going to do.
Rabbi, is Baruch Hashem the same as bli neder?
No, that just means thank God.
So that's not the same.
No.
You see, Ashram, Shem.
Is that the same? Yeah, okay, that's like a prayer. It's more like a prayer.
Ashram, Shem, next week I will go.
All right, we have like a few minutes to finish, so let's just jump to the end of Perashat Matot, page 32.
So if you are saying, let's say, I will not eat chocolate anymore, and you ask Bezrat Hashem, doesn't count.
Oh, okay, I guess that's
Yes,
nice. Okay. I guess. Inshallah, no. ומקנה רב היה לבני ראובן ולבני גד עצום מאוד. So we're after the war with the Midianites, right? God told Moshe, go and take revenge against the Midianites for what they did in Perashat and the previous Perasha, right? And they conquered them. ויראו את ארץ יעזר ואת ארץ גלעד, והנה המקום, מקום מקנה, and they saw the land, right? This is on the other side of the Jordan, right? They see it's great grazing land, and they have a lot of sheep and cattle, and they want to settle that land. So they came. ויבואו בני גד ובני ראובן, ויאמרו אל משה ולנזר הכהן ולנשיא העדה לאמור. All right, they say all these lands over here, right? Eretz miknehu. This is great grazing land. ולעבדיך mikneh, and your servants, we have a lot of cattle. ויאמרו אם מצאנו חן בעיניך, right? And they said, please, if we found, grace before you, yutan et haaretz hazot la'avadecha la'achusa, give us this land to settle. Al ta'avirenu ta'ayarden, don't make us cross over into the Jordan. What do we need Palestine? There's so many wars there, right? ויאמר משה לבני גד ולבני ראובן, and Moshe says to them, האחיכם יבואו למלחמה ואתם תשבו פה. Says your brethren, what you want your brethren to go out to war, and you're going to sit over here and not do anything. So what do they say? ויגשו אליו ויאמרו, and they approached him and they said, גדרות צאן נבנה למקננו פה. We will build fences for our herds. וערים לטפנו, and we will build cities for our children. ואנחנו נחלץ חושים לפני בני ישראל, and we will be the first ones to go out to battle before the rest of the nation. Meaning, we're not exempting ourselves. We're going to build fences for our cattle and cities for our children, and then we can leave them here and go out to battle. What do you think? Does Moshe accept or not?
Yeah, well, so said.
What does Moshe say?
They tell him first, why you want to do the same to your parents before?
But what does Moshe say to them?
Say, yes, they go with them.
So Moshe, look at what Moshe says. He says, if you do this, right, and if you go out to war before your brothers, look at the last pasuk over there that I highlighted. It says, Udu hatatchem asher timsa. All right. Benu lachem arim letapechem. He says, you shall build cities for your children, ugderot l'sunachem, and fences for your herds, v'hayoseh mipichem ta'asu, and what you promised, you shall do. All right? Now I think over here, there's like a little remiss to what the whole point of Nidarim are. It says, Chachamim, they say, Lo daicha ma she'asera Torah. Says it's not enough what the Torah forbade you from doing. Shata oser al atzmecha devarim achirim, right? That you want to accept more stringencies upon yourself, make a neder to forbid yourself from doing other things. Meaning the Chachamim, they don't look so positively on someone who accepts nedarim, who makes himself, obligates himself to do things. And the Torah says, "V'chi tichdal lindor laHashem," right? And if you shall abstain from making nedarim to God, right? And bohet, it's fine. There's no sin in not making a neder. So what's the point of the nedarim? Is if you have a specific problem right? And you make a neder to kind of correct that problem that you have. But we see it's not something that God wants us to be doing all the time. The Chachamim says, abstain from what you're forbidden from abstaining, b'matzua. Do what's permitted from you, in moderate. What's permitted to you to do it in moderation. Eat in moderation, drink in moderation. Everything that you're meant to do in moderation, and don't start vowing and obligating yourselves to do things that the Torah never requested from you. So, who is the neder for? We see the woman in the household, she wants to make a neder, right? If she's independent on her own, her neder is a neder. If she's within a household, the head of the household is the one who decides, right? Who were all these laws of the nedarim given to? Vaydaber Moshe el Rashi Hamatot, to the leaders. You say, Kol hagadol mechavero yisro gadol himeno. Anyone who is greater than his friend, right? What does that mean? Greater, he's more powerful, right? Then he has a stronger yetzer, right? Someone becomes the leader, right? Now people are trying to, how do you call it? He's got power, he can do things, people try to bribe him. So he says, I'm making a neder, I'm not accepting gifts from anybody. If I accept gifts, that's going to open me up to corruption. Right? And we see all the time politicians, they get very powerful, they start having affairs, and that can be the end of their career. Says, I got to a power position, I'm going to obligate myself or forbid myself from certain things. And look at what it says. Men, they make a neder, it's a neder.
So it's like everyone's kind of like 3 guys.
Oh, you're talking about what are you talking about? No, that's different. You're each on your own.
Okay.
You're each independent. You're just sharing the living quarters. It's not that. It says Vayigishu elav vayumiru. It says the heads of the tribes of Reuven and Gad, they came to Moshe and they said, Gidrot son nivnen miknenu po. We're going to build, how do you call it? We're going to build fences for our son, for our cattle, and we're going to build cities for our children. And look at what Moshe responds to them. It says, Binu lachem arim letapechem. Build cities and then build the fences. In the Midrash Rabbah, right, the Chachamim, they say that Moshe rebuked them. It says, you completely missed the point. It says, you're the leaders of the people, and you're asking first about the welfare of your property, and then to build cities for the people. It says, no. It says, the people aren't there to serve your cattle, right? You turned your cattle into the ikar, and the people that you're in charge of are there to make you rich. It says, no. It says, you're in charge of the people. You need to look out for the welfare of the people. And your property is there to support them and not the other way around. That's what happens when people grow from being a head of a household to a mayor of a city and to, I don't know, a minister or a prime minister, right? Who's serving who? Are the people, are you serving the people and supporting the financial system around them? Or are you building up your riches, your property, and the people are now enslaved to make you richer? So he says to them, no. Binu lachem arim letapechem. First build the cities for your children. Ugderot lisonachem. And make a gader around your cattle. All right? What's gderot? What else do we know as gadir? Gadir. It says ve'asu siyag la Torah. Right? When the Hachamim make a gezerot, right, in order to make a fence around the Torah. What's the Sona Achem? The Sona Achem, this is, you can understand like in the Dirash as your own like personal, your animal side, your inclinations. It says, build cities. When you rise to status where you have people in your charge, you're the head of a city, right? Build the cities for the children. Then you can make nidarim, right? You can make a neder to make sure that you don't get corrupted. Gderot is sona'achem, and this is the segula v'hayoseh mipichem ta'asu, to follow through with your promises. And I think this is the message of Perashat Matot, right? Somehow corresponded with our 13th category of mitzvot, right? The whole point of the 13th category of mitzvot is the Torah directing you how to live your life in moderation, right? The Torah itself, the mitzvot themselves direct you to live in moderation. If you have a need to make a neder, right, then you have that option. The Hachamim don't really like it so much. And they say someone who makes a neder, he should eventually go to a Hacham to lehatir the neder, to annul his neder, right? And this is why he specifically directed the nidarim to Rashi Hamatot, right, to the political leaders, because they are the ones that are most likely to not keep their promises. And the end of the Pirashah shows us how Moshe wants the heads of the tribes to follow through with their promises. It says, when you rise to power positions, you have a lot more things pulling you. You have a lot more inclinations, and that's when a neder could be appropriate. All right, so Rav Yisrael is here. We're a bit late, and inshallah we'll meet next week. B'li neder.
תודה רבה.
And this is story with the God, Reuben, and the half of the Maimonides tribute. Like
Yeah,
they have one issue for that situation. Huh? You remember
The